Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Simple Watch Reviews, where I review simple watches in a straightforward way. Today my review of the Militado Dirty Dozen homage. Before I flip the camera and show you the watch, a quick plea from me. I'm trying to grow the channel at the moment, so if you like this style of watch content, please do consider subscribing. All of my review videos are filmed in 4K and I really do focus on the detail of the watch rather than just giving you loads of waffle. Anyway, I'll stop waffling and show you the watch. Okay, so here we have the watch, and this is the Militado homage to the Dirty Dozen style of watches from the Second World War. So these were British military watches from World War II, called Dirty Dozen watches because there were 12 manufacturers who made them for the British military, including big names like Omega, IWC and JLC. So there are a load of different homages to this style of watch that you can buy nowadays. I was originally looking at getting the Baltony one, but that's a bit more expensive than the Militado. I managed to find this for £56, which is about $75, which I think is really good value for a nice little watch like this. It's got a 36mm case, which is kind of period appropriate, and which I love. So I've got a smaller wrist, I've got a 6¼ inch wrist. So I'm really pleased to see so many more smaller watches coming out nowadays. When I first got into watch collecting kind of 10-12 years ago, 36mm would have been considered a tiny watch. Nobody was really making watches of that size, but actually they suit me perfectly. So anyway, this watch, as I say, 36mm, it's 12mm thick, so it's reasonably thick for a small watch, but at least some of that is taken up by the domed sapphire crystal. The dial very much in keeping with the Dirty Dozen style, so these decent size Arabic numerals all the way around, small seconds down at the 6th there, and these lovely cathedral hands. The movement inside this one is a quartz movement, so it's the Seiko VD78. So that's a quartz movement with small seconds clearly and no date, so perfect for this style of watch. And you can't quite see it because it's covered by the mirror hand, the minute hand, but you've also got the broad arrow at the top there, which again is typical for this style of watch. You can get the watch on either a NATO strap or a leather strap. I opted for the NATO strap, which is just a completely standard NATO, albeit it does have brushed hardware to match this kind of satin style hardware of the case. I've actually put it on a strap I already had, so I've got it on this suede strap, which I think suits it really, really nicely. The other thing to note is I went for the brown dial version. It was slightly cheaper than the black dial, so they do it with a black dial as well. I like the look of the brown dial. It gives the watch kind of an aged look, which I think really suits the vintage style. One other thing to note, so the lume on this watch is BGW9, so it glows blue. So I don't think that's the right choice. I would have preferred this watch with C3. I think that would have been more appropriate. So that's a kind of more vintage style of lume that glows green. I think that would have been better for this particular watch. But the lume is decent. It does a good job. The case is very plain. As I say, it's got this kind of satin finish, but it's nicely done. As you can see, it's got nice clean lines on it. No variation to the brushing or anything like that, but very appropriate for a military style watch. The crown is decently sized and nicely grippy, and it's a screw down crown as well, so the watch has 100 meters of water resistance, so it will take pretty much whatever you throw at it. Clearly it's not the kind of watch you would wear for diving, but for everyday activity you don't need to worry about it getting wet. The crystal does have a bit of anti-reflective. As you can see, the studio lights in here are shining off the outside of the crystal, so I think that anti-reflective coating is just on the underside, but if I hold the watch up like that you can see there's definitely a bit there, but yeah, it doesn't appear to be any on the top of the crystal. The case back is very plain, but looks like it will be easy enough to get off when a battery change is needed, and I certainly wouldn't have any worries about changing the battery on a cheaper watch like this. Let's take one more look at that dial, and then I'll put it on wrist so you can see what it looks like on my 6¼ inch wrist. There's a slight sunburst shimmer to that brown dial. I think it's really quite nicely done. Right, let me take off today's watch. So today I'm wearing the Militado D12, which is their new sub homage. I will be doing a review of this one on the channel soon. Let's slide this one on. So you can see on my small wrist, it really works very nicely indeed. Perfectly sized for me, really. If you've got a bigger wrist, you may think that 36mm is a little bit small, but I think for a vintage style military watch, it's really quite the perfect size. So those are my thoughts on the Militado Dirty Dozen homage. I'm really pleased with mine, and if you're after one that's a little bit cheaper and you don't mind having a quartz movement inside, I definitely think it's worth checking out. Anyway, I will leave it there. Thanks very much for watching today, and do please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content from me like this in the future.